The operating expense ratio gives a glimpse into a property's operations. Two properties can earn the same income, but one may have a much different expense ratio for a number of reasons. And sometimes, a lower expense ratio does not always make it the best deal. Welcome to Strategy Saturday. I'm Charles Carillo, and today we're discussing the multifamily operating expense ratio, what it is, how to calculate it, and how to actually use it to spot good deals and avoid bad ones. So let's get started. In multifamily real estate, the operating expense ratio, or sometimes just referred to as the expense ratio, is an important, easy to calculate metric used to measure a property's efficiency. It is calculated by taking the property's total operating expenses divided by the gross operating income. So if a property has a gross income of $100,000 per year, and operating expenses of $50,000 per year, the operating expense ratio is 50%. The total operating expenses include property taxes, insurance, utilities, property management fees, repairs, maintenance, and payroll. It does not include mortgage payments, depreciation, or major capital expenditures, CapEx, such as a new roof or a new bathroom. The gross operating income is the total income actually collected, including rent, parking fees, laundry, and pet rent minus vacancy losses. How I was taught to understand the expense ratio by a mentor years back was to use 50% as a typical expense ratio. If the expense ratio is over 50%, the rents might be below market or there may be a management issue. If the expense ratio is below 50%, there may be unaccounted expenses or deferred maintenance. Typical expense ratios. Class A properties with 35% to 45% expense ratios, well-run, efficient, large complexes. Class B properties with a 45% to 55% expense ratio, well-managed, solid tenant base. Class C properties with a 55% to 65% expense ratio, older properties, high maintenance requirements, stagnant rent increases with increasing expenses. The ratios will vary by market, property age, unit count, and utility setup, so make sure to use local benchmarks. Similar to cap rates and property types, find out what is typical for your market, utility setup, and property type, and compare it to that. A few common mistakes when it comes to expenses. Investment properties are valued based on their net operating income, so it benefits sellers to show a higher NOI to boost their property's value. Be on the lookout for unrealistic expenses and deferred maintenance during your inspection. Make sure to normalize expenses when performing underwriting, like not planning for post-purchase tax increases or not getting an insurance quote yourself and using the seller's or broker's insurance number. Why does the expense ratio matter? An abnormal ratio might signal the need for more research and review before submitting an offer. A high expense ratio might be a sign that there is considerable deferred maintenance and systems have been patched instead of replaced. A high expense ratio might signal that higher expense items like taxes, insurance, or payroll are unable to be recovered from tenants through rent increases. The operating expense ratio isn't about being as low as possible. It's about being realistic, sustainable, and appropriate for the asset in the market. If you're interested in learning more about underwriting expenses for apartment buildings, check out episode SS114. That's SS114. I hope you enjoyed. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Submit comments and potential show topics at globalinvestorspodcast.com. If you're interested in actively investing in real estate, please check out our courses and mentoring programs at syndicationsuperstars.com. That is syndicationsuperstars.com. Look forward to 2 more episodes next week. See you then. Have you always wanted to invest in real estate but didn't have the time, didn't know where to find the deals, couldn't get the funding, and didn't want tenants calling you? Since 2006, I've been buying income-producing properties in great locations that provide us with consistent passive income while we wait for appreciation in the future and take advantage of tax laws while we're waiting. And unlike your financial advisor, we invest alongside our investors in every property we purchase. Check out investwithharborside.com. If you like the idea of investing in real estate, if you like the idea of passive income, partner with us at investwithharborside.com. That's investwithharborside.com.